We've got former Bush 43 spokesperson Mercedes Schlapp, entrepreneur John Tatum, Democratic strategist Christy Setzer. All right, let's get right to it, guys. Mercedes, to you first. None of this should be a big surprise or warrant even a Fox alert for anybody who hadn't been paying attention to Donald Trump and what he wanted to do. He is now fulfilling that. The question is, can he carry through on it beyond these executive orders and get Congress to go with him? What do you think?
Well, the executive orders are the first place to start, obviously, and of course there's no surprise on the TPP signing of that executive order and pushing back on that, which actually should please the Democrats for the most part, because remember, Republicans were the ones that were pushing for TPP along with President Obama. And then on the other hand, when you have the Mexico City policy, for example, that's a big support for what would be the pro-life evangelicals, Catholics who came out, supported Donald Trump. Obviously, you could say that Governor Pence would have an influence on that as well. It's an issue very important to the pro-life community in helping to stop taxpayer dollars to be involved in the abortion industry abroad. So I think that one thing you know about Donald Trump, Neil, is the fact that he made it from day one. He was going to take action. Obviously, for executive orders, it's very easy. Now when he runs into Congress, this is when the negotiating begins.
You know, John, I also think that the first 100 days of administration in this attention deficit disorder world we live in now, I think the first 100 hours count for a great deal, and that you send a message that you're going to be busy, that you're going to sign a lot of executive orders because getting legislation through takes time. But if you start from the get-go with executive orders that seem sweeping in nature, that'll do the trick. What do you think?
Well, Neil, I agree with you. I mean, amateur hour in America is over. We have a professional. We have a chief executive running the executive branch right now. I don't think that President Trump will pass as many laws as, let's say, FDR did. I think he was over 70 laws, new laws, in his first 100 days. But President Trump is a man of action. And, you know, per Mercedes' point earlier, he's just doing exactly what he said he was going to do when he campaigned. And he's meeting with union leaders later today and later this week. And they don't want the TPP. The evangelical supporters, they don't want taxpayer-funded abortions. So he's delivering on the promises that he made. And I think that, you know, folks like Chuck Schumer and certainly Paul Ryan, hopefully everybody will get on board, because where they were elected by one state in Chuck Schumer's situation with New York, the president was elected by the entire country.
But
so
I could be wrong, but Christy, I think he's going to have more problems, that is, President Trump, within his own party when it comes to things like trade deals and the like. His populist approach went against the grain, as Mercedes pointed out, with fellow Republicans more than it did Democrats. So how is that going to go? Because I was thinking of that along with the tax cut plan that he says will be big, but already words from the Senate leader that, wait a minute, we've got to be revenue neutral here. So I don't know, there might be some fires within the home front here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, the Republican Party leadership, they're the only ones who really can keep him in check, especially on these issues, as you said, like the TPP, where it was where he'd gotten during the campaign an interesting collection of both people all the way on the right and people all the way on the left, the Bernie supporters who really wanted to overturn TPP, who were absolutely against it. So, so I think that you are going to see some problems with Republicans there who were in favor of it. One other thing that I want to talk about is that, yes, you see this flurry of activity today that is maybe not surprising in terms of the issues, but certainly also strategic in terms of him deciding to turn the page on this weekend, where you saw he and his administration in defensive mode about crowd size, about the women's marches, and about the idea that he'd originally said that he was just going to take the weekend off and start on Monday. So you do see him in a flurry of action mode, probably trying to turn the page on.
Well, you could be right about that. I don't know. He did comment the constitutional right of people to protest. Didn't understand why they were protesting. Maybe many of them should have just voted. Right. But I do agree with you that making an issue of the crowd size was probably a wasted effort, but it is what it is, and it's done. Mercedes, that's the fear some Republicans have, though, that he goes back to that while he's on offense and doing all this other stuff that they like to see, that he could stumble back into some of this other stuff that really doesn't move the needle. What do you think?
Right. I mean, I think that it would be wise for the Trump presidency to focus, and his team to focus on these issues that the voters care about, which is including making sure you don't have a TPP, exactly these executive orders that he's doing on Obamacare. I mean, if he stays focused on the agenda, I think that you could see his approval ratings going up. It is when he gets distracted on these other issues, for example, on crowd size, which for most of us, we don't care about. But this was a bigger story in the sense that this was a fight that he's taking to the mainstream media, where I think he's really raising a red flag by saying, here's the deal. You all, if you're going to be reporting on different stories that we don't agree on, we're going to call you out on it.
Well, I
For
think
example,
that was the strategy. I don't know.
It was.
You guys are all smarter than I am and this stuff. I thought it was a wasted effort. But if the strategy was to call the media out every single time it does something that he doesn't like, maybe there is some lasting or at least near-term value in that to put them on notice, even if it's proven that he's wrong. But maybe I'll give the benefit of the doubt to that. John, the only other thing I will say on this and on the trade stuff and everything else is how he explains that to foreign leaders who might be worried that the U.S. is sort of closing itself off from the rest of the world, getting protectionist. I think it was the German foreign minister who said that his address, that is, President Trump's inaugural address, sounded very protectionist to him. Others were echoing the same. Not everybody. It got rave reviews in Britain, for example, from the British leadership, and it is the Prime Minister of Britain who will be visiting, the first foreign leader to visit him, I believe, on Friday. So not everyone was against it, but that theme and the consequent sell-off we had in Japan might be a sign that some of those folks are worried. What do you say?
Well, I think that, Neil, the president is the head cheerleader. A CEO of an organization is the head cheerleader of that organization. And I think President Bush President Trump, is sending a very pro-American message out there. There will be some practicality when it gets down to it, because obviously workers in other countries that can live on $1 a day or very minimal wages, we're not going to be able to compete with those countries in certain aspects. So there will be a practical sense that will set in. And but I think right now President Trump is very positive in terms of he's wanting everybody to consider America first. When they're building these factories and so forth, and then we'll see obviously as it evolves in reality.
All right, so real quickly, Christy, if you're a Democrat and you're among the Democratic leadership who's going to be meeting with the president, how far do you go, especially on the things that you like to see, namely, let's revisit that Trans-Pacific Partnership? It looked like we were getting the shorter end of the stick. How do you play it?
Hey. Yeah, I mean, look, Chuck Schumer has been very clear that he said, we'll work with Trump on the things that we like. We'll, fight him on the things that we don't. I think Democrats will find it slightly ironic that after we heard 8 years of how terrible President Obama was for using executive orders, that Trump signs 3 on his first day in office. But no, I mean, I think that, Schumer and others believe that there are going to be areas, especially where Trump was an unusual Republican in taking on somewhat more traditionally Democratic policies, where they will be able to work with him.
All right, guys, I want to thank you all very, very much again.